Hey guys, welcome to the Line Change. Um, we're going to be joined by Brandon Astle. I'm going to bring him on right away. So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Brandon Astle. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Actually, here, let me see if I can get us. No, that's better. All right, I just have some. Well, how's your day going so far?
It's going pretty well. I mean, what is it, almost 30 degrees and getting a
Yeah,
good stretch of weather. So
yeah,
sometimes when that sun comes out, you just feel good overall. So can't complain.
yeah. So let's get started. I'm just gonna ask you some questions. What's your favorite NHL hockey team?
It's the Vancouver Canucks, always has been. I don't have the best memory in the world, but I remember the 1994 Cup run and watching the games at my old house. Can remember what our TV looked like, where I sat, where the heartbreak happened. So I've been a diehard fan since the early 90s, and we'll always have that Canucks loyalty for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite player, like from the past? Doesn't have to be a Canuck.
Favorite Canuck, I know I may take some heat for this, is of all time is probably Matt Cook. Before he got into his demon era, if you will, especially when he was with Pittsburgh ending careers. But I was just such a huge Matt Cook fan. I remember I got his jersey with his autograph for one of my birthdays growing up. But obviously, always admired the Canadiens are a couple of my favorite players of all time. Just the way they went about their business, the abuse they took to turn out the way they did as a couple Hall of Famers is unreal. And having the chance to see them a bunch at Abbotsford Center, be it being around the Abbotsford Canucks and helping the young players develop is just, I mean, what better resources can you ask for? Marcus Naslin, Brendan Morrison, a couple other Canucks that I grew up liking. And my favorite non-Canuck player of all time, and I'll probably take some heat for this, is Patrice Bergeron. Just love the way he plays the game. I didn't play anything like him. I was a center, but like he was like so good, 200 feet. Had the skill to score 40 goals every year if he wanted to, but really took pride in playing in his own zone and was such a good teammate. Battled hard, played through like punctured lungs, separated shoulders. He was just the ultimate warrior, and was a sad day when he retired a few years ago for me.
Hmm. I guess that's a bit of a segue. Who's your favorite current player?
Favorite current player. You know what? I've since Bergeron retired, I've been kind of in limbo, and I recently jumped on the Mark Scheifele bandwagon. Again, similar player to Bergeron, a solid
Mm,
piece, but sorry, I don't know if you lost me there. Someone just give me a
yeah.
call, but just the way that game plays hard, very skilled, reliable defensively, but that can change. I'm open to taking on more favorite players, but right now the guy for me is probably Mark.
All right. Do you have a favorite current Canuck?
Favorite current Canuck. Um, I mean, it's anyone that gets called up from Abbotsford. So maybe on defense, Junior PDD is probably my favorite Canuck right now. I mean, the way he was able to adapt from going from the Abbotsford Canucks to Vancouver and not miss a beat was not even a surprise because he only knows how to play the game one way, and that's a hard physical brand. And you can see the Canucks fans really enjoy the way he plays the game and turned into a bit of a fan favorite near the end of the season. And he's just only scratching the surface. He's going to be a Vancouver Canuck for a long time and a good one.
I completely agree. I was blown away by when he was moved up to the NHL and just the physicality from him. Like he's not afraid to get into it. And I saw a little bit of that during the season. And I was like, okay, this guy's a keeper. He's not going to put up with crap.
Yeah, no, he
So,
welcomes the contact. He'll go looking for it. He wants to get whacked in the back of the legs. He'll give it right back to you, no problem. He doesn't care how big you are, how much of a veteran, or how many years he played in the league. He will make his presence known out there. And I remember his first game with the Abbotsford Canucks a couple of years ago was in Colorado. Jonathan Lecker-Mackey got steamrolled, and who was the first guy in there trying to protect him and stand up for Lecker-Mackey was Pedersen. And right then and there, I'm like, okay, they got a keeper.
Mm-hmm. How did you get into broadcasting?
So I was 18 years old. I was in the middle of my junior hockey career. Still had a couple years of eligibility left, and thought I was going to go back and continue to play, maybe move up the ladder to junior A. And then all of a sudden, after our season came to an end, I always wanted to get into broadcasting. I always thought it'd be after I was done playing, but just felt like, you know what, I'm probably not going to make it to the NHL. I don't think I'll get a scholarship, so why not just drop everything and try to get into broadcasting? We had a close family friend who was actually on Sportsnet 650, Marcus Fitzgerald, who was going through a program that he really enjoyed at Columbia Academy. Don Taylor went there. I've always been a big Don Taylor guy. And so I did research on what Columbia Academy was all about. And it was very hands on the air from pretty much day one or the first week. And I had a nice little sports broadcasting program as well for a couple of weeks, and ended up jumping into that industry and didn't look back. So kind of came out of the blue, was something I always wanted to do, but got into it a lot sooner than I thought I would.
All right. And then how did you get involved with Abbotsford?
So I got involved halfway through the first year. There was another commentator in place, James Sabalski. And so I obviously was hoping I would get a look for the job or at least apply for it, but there never was a posting before the season. And then James was named as the play by play guy, I believe, on the first ever game at Abbotsford Center. And before that, I decided to take a gig with the Chilliwack Chiefs in the BCHL, which is just down the road from Abbotsford Center. I didn't think it'd be a long-term thing. I didn't know what would come of it. I just thought, you know what, let's give this a chance. I was honestly thinking about hanging it up and starting a new career. But this opportunity with Chilliwack came up, which has been a model franchise in the BCHL. I worked for the Langley Chiefs at the start of my career, so getting a chance to go to Chilliwack and knew what the fan base is like, I thought that'd be pretty cool. Despite it being a very long drive from my house, I thought, you know what, let's try this out for a year and see what happens. And I'm glad I did, because in January of that year, I got an opportunity to fill in for James because he wanted to quarantine as he was going to cover the Olympics in February. So I jumped into the play-by-play seat, did a couple of games, and eventually led to a full-time role.
Nice. Wow. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit more Abby and the trade that happened the other day. I noticed you and you guys look like you guys were pretty close. Obviously, you spent a lot of time with him. What was your initial reaction to the trade happening?
First of all, not surprised. I think it was something we all saw coming. Even I think Arturs could probably admit that. There was a logjam in the NHL crease with both Demko and Lankinen signed long term. And so it was pretty obvious that a trade was going to happen. It was just a matter of where. And I was really hoping he'd be put into a good situation for a team that needed some goaltending. And I think Pittsburgh is a perfect landing spot. So I was very happy to see him get an opportunity with the Penguins, and will get a legit shot to become a full-time NHL goaltender, because I honestly think he's graduated from the American Hockey League. He has nothing else left to prove. He's the reigning Calder Cup playoff MVP, and he's just been so consistent each and every year he's been in Abbotsford, and that's the main thing that separates an AHLer from an NHLer, is having that consistency. And we saw what he did in that playoff run a few years ago with Vancouver. I know his stints this past season didn't go as planned, but he didn't complain about it. He came back to Abbotsford, worked on his game along with the new goaltending coach and Justin Pogge, and just kept getting better and better as the season went along. And he got called up a few times here and there before the Calder Cup playoffs. And when he came back, he really settled in and put on a performance that Abbotsford fans are going to remember for a very long time. So very sad to see him go, but he left a huge impression on the Abbotsford Canucks. The connection he had with the fans is something I'll always remember the most about him. And just by doing many interviews with Arturs and talking to him offline, he never took that fan support for granted. His eyes always lit up when I asked him what it meant for the crowd to chant his name at Abbotsford Center. And obviously during the playoffs, it went up another level. And it's something that he and the fans will never forget.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that playoff run a couple of years ago, I fell in love with him. Just seeing him, and just seeing that smile on his face, it it made you want to smile. Like, I don't know. He just had that effect on you. And yeah, obviously, you know, it sucks that we were forced into this trade, you know, but I'm glad he's going to Pittsburgh. He's going to get a shot. And I do think he could be a number one in Pittsburgh. So I'm very happy for him. And I wish him nothing but the best. During the playoffs, I did a lot of coverage of the Abbotsford playoffs games. I think I was one of the few who were actually covering, at least non commercially, like media. I believe it was me and Russell from Nothing is Perfect. He was streaming all of the games. I just simply like recap them. But seeing some of these Abbotsford players like Max Sasson, Kudratsev, and learning more about them was amazing, and it made me fall in love with Abby. And just let me know. Tell me what your experience was during this playoff run for Abby.
Yeah, it was just awesome to see the team really come together as one. Obviously, they're bought into the system that Manny Malhotra and his staff have been preaching all year long. And they got hot at the right time. They had a 13-game winning streak in March and didn't lose very much at all going into the playoffs, especially in regulation. They were a very tough team to beat before the 60-minute mark. And that continued on into the playoffs. And they fought some early adversity in the first round against Tucson. They were the only 2 seed in the entire playoffs that had to play the opening round. And so they didn't pout about that. They're like, okay, let's try to get the job done. And their season could have came to an end in game 3. There was a winner take all against the Roadrunners. And they came out and in my opinion, had the best performance in all the playoffs in that game 3. A total 60-minute effort. They had a 5-0 shutout win. Shelovs was awesome. The offense came to play. The defense was smothering. And that really kicked them into another gear going into the second round against Coachella, which has been the best Western Conference team over the past 2 prior years. So they knew they'd be in for a tough battle there and were able to knock them off in the second round and then just kind of snowball from there. They just seemed to get better and better and didn't really look tired, which they should have been because they're playing more games than anybody else in the Calder Cup playoffs. And obviously having a guy like Artur Shilovs in between the pipes is just going to boost the team's confidence because when things weren't going right, he seemed to be there making the saves time and time again. And that really made the team obviously feel good and were able to many times, although not playing their best game, were able to get the job done. And then they go into Texas and take on a high-powered offense in round 4 after they beat Colorado in round 3, I should say, which was a 5-game battle. And we're able to come up with another clutch effort and a winner-take-all game in their building, another 5-0 win. Shelovs was unreal in that game, and the team just really found their stride. Everything was clicking at the right time and just were able to fight tooth and nail to advance to the 4th round, which was against a very good Texas team who were blowing the doors off their opponents offensively. But going into that Texas series, I had a really good feeling the Canucks could shut down their top players. And for most of that series of the 6 games they did, especially the games in Abbotsford. Ritzkovian was relatively quiet in the games in Abbotsford. Cole Lynn was relatively quiet. Curtis McKenzie was quiet. On defense, Capobianco, he's one of the highest scoring defensemen in the regular season. He didn't do much in Abbotsford, but they did get some of their cookies back in Texas where they can control more of the matchups, right? But at the end of the day, the Canucks were better in 6 games. And then they go into Charlotte, taking on another wagon who swept their last 2 opponents who happened to be very good in Hershey, the back-to-back champs, and then Laval, who was the best team in the regular season, made easy work of them. So Abbotsford goes in as the underdog to Charlotte, North Carolina. We're able to get a split. They come home and look unreal through the 3 games. They nearly won the series in overtime in Game 5, and they were able to shake that off. That could have crushed a lot of teams, Tyler, to lose at home in overtime with a chance to win with the cup in the building. I mean, some teams wouldn't be able to come back from that, but Abbotsford had a great makeup and go into Bojangles in Game 6, and it was pretty fitting. They're down 2-0, just like they were in Game 6 against Texas, and rally back and win 3-2 in Abbotsford Canucks fashion, and the rest is history. So I know that's a pretty long-winded answer, but there's just so much to recap and still have a lot more to go with regards to how they played in the Calder Cup playoffs.
No, that was great. That was great. And yeah, you're 100% right on that Game 5. I'll admit I was disappointed that they couldn't seal it. But they were able to get the job done, obviously, in Bojangles. I still can't get over that name, by the way. Bojangles Coliseum is great. Just another question. Do you watch any other sports?
I watch all the sports, Tyler, almost to a fault. I can't stop. Right now is actually the time where there's nothing on. So I'm finding other ways to keep busy. And I do have a daughter who takes up a lot of my time. So my sports watching isn't as it was maybe a few years ago, but I still manage to take in a lot of sports. I'm a huge NFL guy. Probably my favorite sport is football, although my background is in hockey, and a lot of hockey people be shocked to hear that. But I'm a huge Indianapolis Colts fan. I live and die with every snap. Every Sunday, I'm up at 10 a.m. watching their games for the last couple decades. Champions in '07. I got a ring. Things haven't been great these last several years. In fact, it's been embarrassing and has been hard to watch. But yet, I still come back year after year. I'm right now looking forward to the season in September. So NFL's a big one. I watch a lot of golf. Huge golf guy. NBA, the Indiana Pacers are my favorite team. They just had their heart broken in Game 7 against OKC, but was able to take that loss in stride because I'm a huge SGA fan, and they got another Canadian, Lou Dort, on the Thunder. So if there's a team to lose to, I was okay with it being OKC. I'm a big baseball fan. Don't really follow a team. I actually don't really like the Jays. I just don't like Toronto sports teams. So I know a lot of people won't like to hear that, but it is what it is. Enjoyed watching the home run derby last night. So across the board, I just watched Wimbledon. I mean, what Alcaraz and Sinner are doing now in that sport after Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer dominated the last couple decades. Now we're seeing two more young studs come and lead the charge, with Djokovic still kind of lurking in the background. Wouldn't be surprised if he got more majors under his belt. And big CFL guy as well. Love the BC Lions. They are my favorite team and have been forever. And they got off to a tough start this year, but have now won the last couple games and look like they're starting to buy into Buck Pierce's system. So that gets a lot of my attention right now up until hockey season and football begins again and NFL begins again.
Well, that answered my other question on your other favorite sports team. So that was great. If you could change one thing in Canucks history, what would it be?
I would say a couple of Game 7s in the Stanley Cup Final. 2011, I went down to the Roxy to watch that game, and I'll never go back to watch a Canucks game there. The memories are just too harsh. I still can't believe, of all places, I watched that game at the Roxy. I know I wanted to be downtown. If they won, that would be unreal. But unfortunately, we know what happened after the loss. We don't have to get into that. So being down there when all that nonsense was going on was quite a scene and scary. And then in 1994 at Madison Square Garden, I mean, what could have been? So you can take your pick between those two.
Yeah. 2011 is a big one for me, for sure. Let's talk a little bit more Abbotsford, I guess. How do you think they're going to do next season? You know, with a lot of players moving out that were a part of that Calder Cup run. You know, guys like Sammy Blais, PDG is now gone. How do you think they're going to respond to losing some of those guys? And what's your prediction for next season?
Yeah, it's always tough to handicap how an AHL team is going to do right out of the gate, just because there's a lot of movement. It all depends on what happens with the big club and who they decide to keep and who they decide to send down, and then you can take injuries into consideration. So the first few weeks in the AHL season are tough to handicap what exactly is going to happen. But like you mentioned, we know the guys that won't be there. Sammy Blais, one of the best players of the playoff run. Phil DiGiuseppe, a do-it-all type forward, the oldest player on the Abby Canucks. He's no longer with the team. Artur Shilovs will not be between the pipes for the first time in a while. But with that said, Nikita Tolopilo played a lot more than Shilovs did this year. People forget that, and he was awesome. So I think he is ready to take the ball and run with it and be a clear-cut number one in the American Hockey League. I am very bullish on his future as an NHLer. He's just so big and athletic and really puts a lot of work in off the ice to be the best he can be. So I'm excited that he's going to get a chance to be a number one. And if anything happens to Lankin and Demko, They'll have no issues bringing him up. No Cole McWard. There's a couple guys in flux to see if they're going to get contracts or not, including the likes of Tristan Nielsen, who's been here since day one. And you're not sure who's going to be there on opening night. Will Danila Klimovich be there? Probably. People forget he led the team in goals in the regular season and has been here since day one and scored some clutch ones in the playoffs in double overtime. And hopefully he builds confidence off of that and gets a good season of training under his belt. So also you got some new players, some draft picks coming in that are going to get their first taste of the pro ranks. Kirill Kudratsev will be another year older. He's going to be a leader on the back end. Guillaume Brisebois likely to be back at Abbotsford if he doesn't make Vancouver out of camps. Chase Waters, the captain, will be back. So there's still a good mix of returning players, but just like any other team, there's going to be some youth in the lineup, and that's fun to think about as well.
We got a question from the live chat. Green asks, which Abbey player will record the most points for the big club this year? His pick is Carlson.
I would say that's a pretty good pick. He's put up a lot of points the last few years with the Abbotsford Canucks, the all-time leader in goals and points, and had the most points in these playoffs, the most goals. So that has been his bread and butter, and gets a lot of his production from the dirty areas in front of the net, tipping home pucks and digging for rebounds. So it's just going to be a matter of what type of opportunity will he get at Vancouver if he makes the team. I know that he's probably going to have a good chance to crack the opening night lineup, and we'll see where he goes. It's likely going to be in the bottom six, right? And probably not getting power play time, whereas that was a lot of what he did in Abbotsford. But Carlson is a guy that has a very translatable game from the AHL up to the national, and I can see him working his way up the depth chart with the way he approaches the game. He's someone that coaches really love to have at their disposal. And we saw him really get comfortable and in his own skin when he got called up late in the year. He scored a couple NHL goals with Vancouver, was on the third line, and was really noticeable each and every night. And he came back down before the Calder Cup playoffs and really looked like he took the confidence with him and played well. So he's another guy that I think has graduated from the American Hockey League. So we'll see what he does at camp.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree on Carlson. Watching him throughout this playoff run, he was incredible. I do think he's got a good shot at making the big club for sure this year. Green also made a comment earlier. Brandon Astle, you're a gem. Really love and appreciate your passion and play-by-play respect. So that's great. Yeah,
appreciate that. Thank you, Green. Yeah, I mean, my job's easy. By the way, Abbotsford played last year. I was just along for the ride and telling the story, and it was an easy one to tell and a memorable one at the end of the day that everyone's going to remember forever. There's 30 new Calder Cup champions. That's the best part when I look back at the run. No player won a Calder Cup going into that playoff run on the Abbotsford Canucks. The only two, one is behind the bench. Manny Malhotra got one as a player at the start of his career. And the guy standing next to me, Landon Ferraro, my color commentator, won one of the Grand Rapids. So those are the only two guys in the building that had Calder Cup rings.
Another question, this one from Swerve and Irvin. With such a significant Indian community in Abbotsford, what did it mean for those fans to have Kara, Baines, and Coach Malhotra on the team?
Yeah, and don't forget Harry Mahesh, the assistant coach. It was his first time behind a pro bench, and such a good guy Harry is. And I know the community really rallied around those players and the coaching staff. Obviously, they get a lot of fan support. Arshdeep and Jujar's hometowns are just 20 minutes down the road in Surrey. And so we see the types of events that the team puts on. Diwali night early on in the year is always one you circle on the calendar. And just to see the type of professionals those two are, like very down to earth, always looking to improve. They don't want any of the headlines. They just want to be a good teammate and help out in getting wins as much as possible. So just got a tremendous amount of respect for those guys, and Manny Malhotra and Harry Mahesh. A great match made in heaven. And a story that Harry told me during the playoffs, which I didn't know, I don't know if a lot of people know, is he actually interviewed for the defensive position that Jordan Smith actually got. And so Harry thought he was out, but Manny circled back and said, Harry, what if you ran the forwards in the power play? And so it's funny how things work out. It turned out to be a great relationship, and Harry and Jordan have a bright future along with Manny Malhotra. And it's great to hear that all of them are going to be back next season.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to let them post in the chat some questions, but while we wait for that, let's talk a little bit about Vancouver Canucks. How do you feel their chances are next season, and what do you think about their moves so far this offseason?
Yeah, I think they've made some pretty good moves, and it sounds like more are on the way. Obviously, they're looking to improve the second line center position. Easier said than done, as a lot of teams are lined up to get a solid second line center. I think a lot is going to be on the shoulders of how Pettersson does, and sounds like he's had a very good offseason training program right now. And when he gets back to Vancouver, hopefully he can look like his old self. And then you got Evander Kane, who's come in. The Canucks don't have a player like him. And I mean, talk about a guy that has some great playoff experience going to the Stanley Cup final back to back. And he's got something to prove, right? And I know a lot of folks were kind of questioning that move. But hopefully he can come in and just kind of keep his nose to the grindstone and be someone relied upon to bring that physical element along with some offense as well. What I really like, Tyler, is their back end. I mean, Quinn Hughes, one of the best defensemen in the world. We don't need to talk about him. We know what he brings to the table. What about the other guys like Filip Hronek? He's a great number two. Tyler Myers had a very solid season last year. And then they got the younger bucks. We talked about Junior, PDD. Can he take another step in his development? I'm very confident he can. Will Victor Mancini crack a spot? I really love the way he played in Abbotsford and throughout the Calder Cup playoffs. He's got some great tools that not many hockey players have with the size and the way that he can skate. So the back end looks solid. Obviously, Marcus Pettersson was a great addition, and I think they got the best goaltending tandem in the league. Thatcher Demko is my favorite Vancouver goaltender of all time. I know a lot of people would say Luongo, and rightfully so, but there's just been something about Thatcher that I really get fired up about. And if he can stay healthy, I don't see why they couldn't be a playoff team.
Absolutely, absolutely. We had another good question from Green again. It goes, when can we sign Brandon Astle to an extension?
You know what, Green? Let's talk offline. I'm looking for an agent, so maybe you can help me out. But no, hopefully we'll be talking to the team soon. Obviously, it's been a long year, Tyler, and a lot of vacations plans got postponed. And so a lot of people right now in the organization are enjoying some much needed R&R. And we'll pick back up here probably later in July or early August. And next thing you know, training camp will be around the corner in September.
Mm-hmm. I got one from Irvin. Not a question, but I just want to tell Brandon how great it is, how he's continuing the great run of play-by-play guys for the Canucks that we fans have been treated to.
I really appreciate that. I mean, the playoff run and seeing the support from the fans was taken to another level, and it's something I'll never forget. Whether it's running into people before a game, even on the road, Tyler, I was surprised Canucks Nation were out in droves in a lot of arenas, like even Bojangles Coliseum. Me and Landon got stopped a couple times, and some fans wanted to say hi and talk about the team and whatnot. And obviously at home, just walk around the concourse and being around the fans, just seeing the support has been something I'll never forget. So appreciate those kind words.
Mm-hmm. Another question, what new prospect are you most excited for?
From this last draft?
I assume that's what he means, yeah.
I really like Coots. I think that's a great pick. From all accounts, this guy's a gamer and could be a potential leader in the National Hockey League. And I know his team wasn't that great in Seattle and Dub this past year, but he was still a point per game and one of the youngest captains in the league. So the fact that they're able to get him in that spot, I'm really excited about. And in terms of like prospects in the system right now, I'm very, very high on Ty Mueller. He will be a full-time NHLer and would not surprise me if it's sooner rather than later. He just has those habits that NHL scouts and coaches and general managers look for. He brings it on a night-to-night basis and doesn't get enough credit for his skating. Man, can he really skate and is able to separate in puck races and getting past defenders. And from a 200-foot perspective, he's one of the best on the team, relied upon defensively to take big faceoffs. He's on the PK. No forward blocks more shots than he does. And he's had just 1 year under his belt, and now he's a Calder Cup champion. So mark my words, Ty Mueller will be a very good NHLer for a long time.
Another good one from Swerve and Irvin. Do you have any aspirations of calling for the big club in any shape or form?
I mean, I'm just like these players. Someday I would love to move up. I'm not going to make any bones about that. If it's with the Canucks, obviously I would be open to it and would be a dream come true. But at the end of the day, they got two very, very good play-by-play guys, and John Shorthouse, who's an idol of mine, and Brendan Batchelor, who I used to work with in the BCHL. And those guys are going to be calling games for a very long time. And sometimes, Tyler, you just got to get a bit lucky in this industry. And if there's an opportunity that comes up in the NHL, I would go anywhere, wouldn't ask any questions because I grew up wanting to be an NHL player. And then early my teams figured that wasn't going to be an option. And the next best thing would be to call games. And obviously, it's a very long road to get there as a broadcaster. You got to be good at your job. You got to build a network and get support from the fans. And we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Another one from Urban. Do you get to travel on the team charter?
Yes, I did, and that was very cool. I even took some of the menus each and every time we got off the team charter as a keepsake for the rest of my life. I mean, they call the NHL the Never Hungry League, and that is an understatement. The way that those players get treated is on another level. Everything is just so much more comfortable on that private charter. You almost don't want the flight to end. It gets to that point where you're just like, wow, this is amazing. I don't want to get off. Whereas you're taking a regular commercial flight and you're looking at the watch saying, how long have I been on this flight? So it's just a different lifestyle that I don't want to get used to. But I will say I didn't take it for granted.
Absolutely. Another one, Brandon, you watched Kudryavtsev all year. Would love your full scouting report and possible projection for him, ceiling, possible timeline to make the big club. I really liked his play this year.
Yeah, talk about a guy that came in with no expectations. And I said it in the interviews throughout the year, just by talking with Kirill, he thought he might start in the ECHL. He was a guy coming from the Sioux Greyhounds, a late round pick, seventh round. Usually those guys don't start in the AHL right away, but the way he performed in training camp, it got name checked by Rick Tocchet and Canucks management. He went down to the AHL training camp and left his mark and earned a full-time spot. And I don't think it was ever even a conversation to send him down to Kalamazoo, which is Abbotsford's ECHL affiliate. There were points throughout the year where he sat and watched in the press box, and that's not the worst thing in the world. For at that time, a 20-year-old defenseman learning the ropes of the American Hockey League, and he never pouted. That's the one thing I loved about Kirill. Obviously, you want to play in the lineup each and every night, but there's a lot of solid defensemen that we saw in Abbotsford all year, and sometimes they wanted to play him but just couldn't find him a spot. But by the time playoffs came around, they couldn't take him out of the lineup. He just kept building and building his game throughout the year. And by the time March and April came around, he was in another element of his development. And he's still someone that's very young and still wants to get better. Really love the mindset that he has and the engine. He's someone that isn't going to get well outworked very often. If you measure him just by how tall he is, he's not the biggest at 5'10", 5'11", but he's thick. He's over 200 pounds. So he's someone that's not going to get knocked off the puck very easily. He's someone that welcomes a contact, kind of like Junior, PDD. In the corners, he'll battle. In front of the net, he'll try to clear out forwards, try to create havoc in front of the net. He'll look for a big hit. And on the offensive side, he makes a great first pass. He's on the second unit power play. He led the Canucks defensemen in points in the Calder Cup playoffs. He led the plus-minus department in the entire Calder Cup playoffs. He's just 21 years old, so I think he's got some very good potential, but at the end of the day, he's still young, and defensemen are a little harder to develop, and I hope fans don't see what PDD did this year and thought, like, okay, like, why can't that happen with everyone? Every prospect has their own path to the NHL, and Kirill's might be a little different. It may take another year or two, and that's just fine, and he's fine with that as well. He knows there's still a lot more work to put in, so I'm definitely bullish on his NHL future, though.
Mm-hmm. This is a good one from Urban. Do you have any funny stories about Victor Tiny Voice Mancini?
Victor is a great kid. Came in after the trade, blindsided, obviously, a part of the New York Rangers organization. And the first time I got a chance to chat with them, I just knew that the Canucks had a good one on their hands. First off, I'm looking up at him like, how old is this guy? And he's very physically impressive, big. And I'll never forget, like, the first handshake. I have some pretty big hands. and it was like giving the Hulk a handshake. And I still give him a hard time about it now, about how big his hands in, and we'll measure hands a couple times throughout the year, or I should say over the last few months. So Victor comes from a great family. I had the chance to meet his dad, his aunt, and his girlfriend in Charlotte, and so it was nice to see where he comes from. You can see why he's such a humble and good kid. He was raised very well, and I think that he's got a great future in the NHL. We've seen him get some games at Vancouver late in the year. We saw him play. He made the New York Rangers at a training camp. Like, let's talk about that. He made the Rangers at a training camp. So the fact that he was able to do that, I would not be surprised if he pushed for a spot out of the gates this year. Yeah, it was funny to see him be tiny voice. I did hear that a few weeks before it was revealed at the championship rally in front of the fans. I know it was a big thing on social media. Canucks fans are doing their sleuthing and trying to figure out who a tiny voice was at the end of games in the locker room, and was pretty surprised it was Victor. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Another one from Green. If Brandon ever needs an intern, ask him to keep me in mind, or me. I'd love to work on some projects with you. I love hockey. I can work on some stats behind the scenes. That's a good one.
There
so
we
yeah,
go.
if you need
it, appreciate it. Yeah, if the work ever stacks up, I'll give you a call, see if we can work something out. But I think for now I'm pretty good.
There's another one. This is a good one. Which Abby player had the most growth in their game this year? Pick a few if narrowing it down to one is too hard.
There's so much. I mean, we saw 16 different players skate in a uniform in Abbotsford and Vancouver this year, so the list goes on and on. I've mentioned a couple of them already in Kudryavtsev and Mueller, so putting those two aside, really saw some solid growth out of Max Sasson. It was great to see him get a solid run of games with the big club. And I really liked how he looked comfortable playing on the wing, because before that call-up, he exclusively played center, whether it's under Jeremy Colleton or now Manny Malhotra. I could easily count on one hand and don't need all five fingers to remember a point when he played wing. It just was something he didn't do, and I thought, like, if he's going to be a full-time NHLer, it's going to have to be at center. But boy, did he prove me wrong, because Rick Tocchet in his first game put him on the wing, and I was like, oh boy, that's got to be an adjustment. But Max took it in stride and looked very comfortable in it. It can be a very tough transition going from the middle of the ice to the boards, especially in your own zone. You got defensemen coming down on you when it's rung around your side, right? And you got to make a quick play off your stick to try to get the team out of the zone. And he was able to do that, and also got some time at center as well as the season went on in Vancouver. So I really like how he showed that versatility, and also saw some growth defensively from Max. And as the season went on in Abbotsford, he was getting tapped on the shoulder more from Manny Malhotra to take big D zone draws on that left side. And I know that's something he really enjoyed doing and wants to keep doing. So he's someone who is going to go into the offseason right now and build off his game and try to get stronger in areas where he thinks needs to improve. And I really liked what I saw from his game from a 200-foot perspective. And we know what he's got with his speed and all that and his playmaking ability. And he's also someone that I think has a really translatable game to the NHL.
Yeah, I agree. I was very impressed with Max. He, out of all the players, he just jumped out to me watching the Abbotsford games. I think the one game I actually was able to watch on, I think it was on Flow, he took it from one end of the ice to the other, and he ends up scoring. I was completely blown away by that, and just his speed. I was like, whoa, like where did this come from, and how come we don't see this more often in the NHL? So I was very impressed with Max Sasson for sure, and he's someone I will most certainly be keeping an eye on this upcoming season, and I think he has a good chance of making the big club. Another one from Green. What's your favorite thing to do in the off season that you can't really do during the hockey season due to a busy schedule?
I like to golf when I can. Obviously, from October until the springtime, in hockey season, it's tough to get out there. So, especially the weather we're getting now, I like to get out as much as possible. We got some great local golf courses around me. But at the end of the day, life has changed over these last 2 years now with a daughter now in my world. So, whatever she wants to do, she likes to go to the park after daycare, which we'll probably do here after this conversation. Sometimes she likes to sit and watch some YouTube and go outside on the deck and play in her water tower. So I just do whatever she does, basically.
One bold prediction for Abby next year.
One bold prediction. That is a good one. I will say that Nikita Tolopilo is one of the best goaltenders in the league, in the American Hockey League. I will say that's my bold prediction. Like I mentioned, he's just someone who has all the tools to be great. And I got a chance to get to know Justin Pogge, his goaltending coach. I know that he has some great things to say and has done some unreal work with Nikita. And so with those two working hand in hand every day, I have no doubts that Nikita will be able to be the number one guy in Abbotsford if that is the case. But also there's some other younger goaltenders that'll be pushing for some time, including Ty Young, who we saw this year. Yuri Patera will be back. He's been a solid AHL goaltender. But I think right now the lead horse is probably Nikita Tolopilo. And if he plays like he did at the end of the year, I think that a lot of people will notice his play, and we'll see what happens with his future.
Yeah, for sure. Another one we got from Irvin. Being somewhat removed from the big club, I would love to hear Brennan's unbiased opinion. Will EP40's game recover to its previous heights, or are we fooling ourselves?
No, I think he definitely can recover. We know what's inside of him. We've seen it. He's been one of the best players in the league when he was on his tear of putting up a bunch of points a few years ago. And I think that this last year was obviously a tough one for him, but I'm sure he learned a lot and knows what he needs to do in the offseason to improve. And he knows that there's a lot on his shoulders. And I think that he's going to come into training camp and try to prove some people wrong. And he's just someone that has a skill set that not many guys in the NHL have. And at the end of the day, it's going to be up to him if he can get back to his former self. And I got confidence that, you know what, we've seen it before. Why can't he do it again? He's still relatively young, and we'll see what he has in store for the Vancouver Canucks this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of PD. I think he will bounce back. I might actually be one of the few that actually full on believes he can do it. So obviously, I think he's going to. Another comment from Green. Oh, it's just a comment. This was a fantastic get to know you episode. Very fun conversation. And I like how Brandon doesn't give short answers. His in-depth analysis is appreciated. Awesome episode. Thank you, Green.
Yeah, thanks a lot for chiming in, Green. And if you got anything else, I'm more than for free right now to keep snapping it around.
Yeah, I just sent into the chat a couple more minutes for questions. See if they can send anything in. What's your predict? Well, you did a bold prediction for Abbotsford. What's one bold prediction for the Vancouver Canucks this year?
Bold prediction will be, I think they can compete for the Pacific Division crown. I mean, a great team starts from the goaltender on out. And like I mentioned during this chat, if Thatcher Demko can stay healthy, I think that'll improve their chances a lot. And with that said, they got a pretty good 1B in Kevin Lankinen, who was awesome last season and earned a 5-year contract. And so we'll see what type of workload Demko gets. I mean, they're going to have to play Lankinen a bunch this upcoming year, you would think. And there's going to be no questions as to whether he can carry some of the load if Demko's either not in the lineup or needs a rest. Talk about a great safety valve to have because, I mean, what did he start out 10-0 last year on a very cheap deal and then earn that contract he was able to get? So just looking at those two, that makes me feel a lot confident and can sleep well at night. And then on defense, like the Canucks have one of the best D-cores in the entire league, not just the Pacific Division. So obviously a lot will be on Quinn Hughes' shoulders, which he's fine with. We've seen him carry the load time and time again. And with PDD, another year older, Marcus Pettersson gets a little more acclimated into his new team and organization. I think the sky's the limit. We'll see what happens.
Another question. In terms of commentary, who did you model yourself after?
I really enjoy the way John Shorthouse calls the game. I would say probably 5-7 years ago, I was very excitable. I still am. Hockey's a fun game to call, and that'll never leave me. But I think some calls were probably over the top. And listening to Shorty, I really learned a lot. And especially this season, nothing's more depressing when the other team scores and the announcer's just like, shoot scores. And it's kind of just like, you know what was that? That's like, this hockey's a fun game. Obviously, commentators are going to be homers and have a little more energy behind the home team scoring. But if the away team scores, like, you don't need to be depressed about it. Like, it's tough to score goals in the pros, right? And so if it's a nice goal, why not give it a little more excitement? And I know I did get some blowback this year. Some fans didn't like that. And I kind of was wondering, like, should I maybe tone it down and not be as excited when the opposing team scores? Excited, I wouldn't call it excited. I'm not sure what to call it, but maybe should I take it a notch down? And I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to be me. And so when you listen to John Shorthouse call a game, obviously there's a little more oomph when Vancouver scores, but he's not going to be depressed when he's calling like a Calgary Flames goal or an Edmonton Oilers goal. Like, he still has some pretty solid oomph. And I know a lot of hockey fans appreciate that. So I really like the way Shorty goes about his business.
All right, last question. From Green, favorite Canuck memory of all time?
Well, I think it just happened on June 23rd, winning the Calder Cup. Does that count? Obviously, I'm biased.
I would say that counts, yeah.
I was able to be along with the team and be a small part of their journey. But having a chance to just see the team come together and get the job done at the end of the day, facing so much adversity, getting a peek behind the curtain and how many guys were hurt. I traveled a lot with the team doctor, and let me tell you, Tyler, I asked him, like, how much longer can some of these guys go? I'm looking at them after games. A few of them, I'm not going to name check, could barely walk. It was unbelievable how they're able to get ready to play a game when they could barely walk in the dressing room or to their car. So just the way they're able to battle through the aches and pains. Everybody was going through something. But by the time the puck dropped, they were able to bear down and fight through it and able to get 16 wins. I know it's an AHL memory, but for me, I know I'm biased. That's something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. And obviously, if the Vancouver Canucks win a cup, that will trump that. But for now, I'm going with the Abbotsford Canucks winning the Calder.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the perfect way to end it, too. Where can everyone find you on social media?
On X, what is my handle? At Brandon_Astle. And on Instagram, I believe it's at Brando Astle. I don't think there's an underscore. I should probably know that. But if you just search my name, I'll be there, and I'll happily give you a follow back if you want to chat anything about the Canucks. I love doing that. My girlfriend probably gets tired of me doing it. My daughter has no choice but to listen to me talk about the Canucks. And now here we are in the off season, Tyler. There's no off season in the Vancouver market. It's always just Canucks hockey. Whenever you get a chance to talk about whether it's AHL, NHL, I mean, it's the best being in this city because there's 2 seasons, hockey season, and then waiting for hockey season, and that's where we're at right now.
All right, yeah. Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate your time. Did you want to do a little let's get out of here before we get out?
Well, I guess right now I will get out of here. So without further ado, let's get out of here.
All right, thanks for chatting. Appreciate it.
No worries. Take care. Thanks, Tyler.
See ya.